Football has its ups and downs. You can't win every match, but you can win every bet. Start your free trial and earn £30 risk-free today at oddswatchdog.co.uk.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Gooner Ramble. This is Rick providing a quick introduction for you due to the fact that this ladies' podcast was originally recorded on Sunday. And I think we all know what happened on Monday, Tuesday. We signed Lacazette and we put out a Lacazette podcast, which meant putting this one on the shelf for a few days. So wanted to make you aware of that before you got too far into this and wondered why they were not speaking about everything Lacazette can add to the squad. It is simply because he hadn't quite been signed yet. But without further ado, here are the four lovely ladies.
Hello, and welcome to another Gooner Ramble pod. I know, 2 pods in a week, hosted by me. My podcast husband Giles better watch out, eh? Anyway, hopefully you all enjoyed the last pod, discussing refs' decisions with Lee, Warren, and my mate Dave the ref. This pod is a special again. For those of you that know me well, know that I originally started on the Gooner Girls podcast around 4 years ago. I loved my time with the girls, so it gave me an idea to do a one-off all-female podcast with 3 Gooner girls that I admire. So let's welcome them. First off, my sister on the Gooner Ramble pod, Sima. Evening, darling. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, Sima. Nice to have you back podding. Where have you been?
I know, it's been quite a long time. I've been really, really busy. I've had 14-hour shifts and no time, and I live in Dubai, so I am 3 hours ahead now.
Oh, wow. It's going to be a bit late for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll keep you awake, don't worry. Lovely to have you back, honey. Secondly, Defo, my sister from another mother when it comes to Arsenal. Sophia, who we are calling Fire tonight. Queen Gooner on Twitter and all-round top Gooner girl. Evening, my lovely. How are you?
Evening, all. I'm really good. Just sat chilling, waiting to chat Arsenal like you do.
Brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant to talk to you again because you came on the Gooner Girls pod once, didn't you?
I did, and it was so much fun. I made my debut and then left. Never came back.
No comment. You were brilliant. Thirdly, Sophie, all the way from LA, who isn't my sister yet, but could be by the end of the pod, depending on whether she wanted Wenger to extend and will be devastated if Sanchez goes. Hi, Sophie. Great to meet you.
Great to meet you girls too. I'm loving this, and I'm sure we'll be soul sisters by the time we've finished recording tonight, no doubt.
We are all soul sisters. We are Gooner soul
straight.
sisters.
Totally.
Yeah. Right, so tonight I want it to be women in football, Gooner girls, girl power. You know, when I started going to football when I was 4 years old, which is over 43 years ago, there was only me and another couple of girls, and if anyone knows Maria, and it was very different back in the late 70s, early 80s. It wasn't a very female-orientated sport as such. So basically, I just went. My life was growing up going to Highbury, so I didn't know any different. None of my friends were into football, nothing. Now, there's thousands and thousands of women all around the world that go to their respective clubs, which is fantastic. And there are many, many, many women who love playing football. We've all got, Arsenal have got their own ladies team, which is fantastic. So, I want to know from all of you a little quick intro into how you got into supporting Arsenal. Sima, darling, when did you start?
Unofficially, it was the late 90s. My brother used to literally spoon feed me Arsenal. And I used to get so bored in the beginning. He used to tell me this player did this, and he played a lot on my emotions. And then eventually I went to university in London, and my course was in Highbury, and I shared a gym with a lot of the Arsenal youth players. But at the time we didn't have internet, so I didn't really know who they were. So yeah, and then eventually I found myself watching the games and checking for the scores. And unfortunately, I never got the chance to go to Highbury, but when obviously now for the Emirates, I come around 4 times a year, and I watch about 12 to 15 games a year, which is pretty good for someone who's abroad, I think. But yeah.
We met, didn't we? We watched, we were in Manchester together. Was it last year or the year before?
No, it was the year before, I think.
It was the year before. We
Yeah.
all met up, didn't we, after the game? Or was it before?
Yeah.
Do you know what? We drank so much I can't remember. I met your lovely brother, I think it was, or your friend.
My friend, yeah.
Yeah, it was just great. It was brilliant. And we've met at the Emirates. It's a shame you missed out on Highbury, actually, because it was a really special place. But I'm a lot older than you, so I went in the 80s and the 90s. It's a really, the Emirates is very different, but it's still our home, isn't it?
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's very female. Like you're saying, it's quite female oriented as well. Like if you go, you don't feel like you are a woman in football. You just feel like you're one of the fans, which is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, fire
Hello.
away.
So, okay, you might catch that I haven't got a London accent. I was born and bred in Leeds. When I was growing up, like Amanda, I grew up in the 70s as well. So when I was growing up, Leeds was one of, like Millwall, like West Ham, real racist culture. They used to hand out National Front flyers in the crowds, monkey chat. It was one of the worst clubs in the country. So, I mean, I've always been sporty. So I wanted a football club. All my friends supported Liverpool, Man U, and I didn't want to go for any of the northern clubs. So and this is going to sound hilarious, because red was my favourite colour, I went for Arsenal. So that was obviously it didn't hurt that we won the 79 FA Cup. So I was a big fan then. Obviously we were absolute crap during the 80s. So kind of like my support waned, but then 89 got me back big time, and I've been a massive fan ever since. I always knew
fire. What happened in 89?
Oh, well, we kind of had to go to, Amanda will probably tell you, but we kind of had to go to Anfield and win by 2 clear goals, and it was Thomas running through the centre, it's up for grabs now, that kind of thing.
Oh, that! I just forgot.
That little thing. And do you know what's really funny? No, because I had so many Liverpool supporting friends. I got so much grief before that game. So much grief. Afterwards, next day at school, everybody avoided me. It was amazing. But I moved to London to study. I came here for university. And I was like, as soon as I can afford to go, I'm going to Highbury. My first game, I was telling Amanda, was I can't even remember what year it is, but I do remember Rule Fox running down the flanks, and we lost to Newcastle, and I was gutted. It was my first ever Arsenal game. I'm thinking I've jinxed myself, but it never stopped me going back. And once I started working in '94, I started going regularly. I didn't have a season ticket, but I got in when they had the silver membership thing, so I was able to buy tickets on a regular basis. So I was going to nearly every single home game. I was there when we won in 97, 98. I was there. I was crying. You can see me on Sky TV crying. I've got a video of me in the crowd. Years. Yep. I was there for 2002. I was there for the Invincibles. And when we moved to the Emirates, I got a season ticket, and I've been a season ticket holder ever since.
It's fantastic.
And I love going. Yeah.
And we've met loads of times, haven't we?
Yeah.
And we do seem to agree on most things, don't we?
I think isn't that how we got talking? We were on Twitter, and then you said something, I was like, yeah, here, and I said something, you was like, here, and was like, oh, we kind of get on, and you're like my sister from another mother. And
I am your sister from another mother.
And then let's meet up. It's even worse. In a good way.
In a good way, yeah. We won't mention that on our pod. Moving on swiftly. So, Sophie. Now, Sophie, I want you to tell us all about you and what you do.
Okay, so I live in LA, and I've lived here for 16 years. I grew up in North London, Palmer's Green, otherwise known as Palmer's Greek. So the way I fell in love with Arsenal, and I have to say, the only thing I miss about living in LA is whether it's a soggy Saturday afternoon at Highbury or the Emirates, it's the football. It really is the only cultural element of kind of not living in England anymore that I really miss. And when I was growing up, my father was a Man United fan, my older sister was a Man United fan, and my brother was a Spurs fan. And when I was growing up, I was like, I don't want to be like them. You know, when you want to be an individual and you want to make your own decisions.
Yeah.
And so I became really obsessed with Liverpool, actually, and Kenny Dalglish. And then a few of my male first cousins at a Greek family wedding moved, kind of pulled me together and said, what are you doing? You live in London. You're from North London. And why are you supporting a team that's, based up north? You should be an Arsenal fan. And so they kind of grabbed me, pulled me aside. And then from that moment on, I became obsessed with Rocky Rocastle. I thought he was so elegant. I thought he was such a beautiful player. I think even a little bit before that as well, I thought to myself, wow, I'm different to my dad, my sister, and my brother who support Man United and Spurs. And there I was with this Liverpool obsession. And then my cousin George, I have like 7 cousins called George, right? It's typical Greek. So I had 7 Georges in my parents' living room. And, they said, it's the Arsenal way. This is it for you. And since then, I've never looked back. And we used to go to games together. And I loved Highbury. I loved the intimacy of Highbury. I loved the closeness of the pitch.
I missed it.
Fans. I mean, this is why I was a little envious of, like, White Hart Lane still had that, and Upton Park, had that. And I think a lot of West Ham's woes this year are a lot to do with that closeness and that intensity between fan and players. And I think Spurs are going to super struggle next year playing all of their games at Wembley, which will be delightful for all of us. But I just loved it. I loved every element of it. And so they sucked me in, and I've never looked back since.
So, Soph, what do you do in LA?
So I work in the entertainment industry. I worked for 20th Century Fox and Sony Pictures for a number of years. Like paying the bills and the mortgage, I'm a film publicist. So I've worked on movies. I look after actors and kind of, devise their publicity campaigns when they're promoting movies. And I was also, though, a real passionate person about radio. So when I was in London, I was a host on London Greek radio for about 6 or 7 years. And then when I moved out here, I really wanted to keep that going. And one day, this really super popular show, the very first ever show, a live daily show talking about football back in 2001, World Football Daily, these guys were pioneers. They were ESPN before ESPN ever covered football or talked about football. And one day they were looking for a co-host a few years later after I moved here. And I went in and I auditioned for them, and no females were talking about football. There were no women here talking about football. And it was unusual because the US national team at the female level were boss. They'd won the Olympic gold medal. They'd won the World Cup. Mia Hamm, Julie Foudy, Christy Rampone, all of those women were real pioneers, but it wasn't translating, to everyday life the way it does in England. And so I was really proud of the fact that I was one of the first females in the US to talk on live daily radio about football. And it kind of went on from there. World Football Daily went away, and then I just carried on and co-hosted a show with a few other people and did some guest appearances. And then I got the gig at the USA Today and then founded my own, kind of deal with British Soccer Diva, BritishSoccerDiva.com, interviewing a lot of people when they come over here for tours, pre-season tours and stuff like that. And then also I'm a regular on TalkSport, especially with Mike and Mike in the evening. The 2 mics.
Wow.
That's it. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I just want to talk to you all night. Now, have you got a spare room for me to come over?
Totally, I do. I have a spare room. I have dogs. I'm right near the ocean.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. I'm getting your number.
No, not before me. Actually, we could go together, couldn't we? We could go together. I'm going to see Sima in Dubai next year. There'll be LA as well. Go on.
That's amazing. You know when I think when David Beckham moved out here, I was covering the LA Galaxy, and then he moved out here. And in England, after a game, the culture in US sports, whether it's NBA, NFL, MLB, MLS, the media go into the dressing room afterwards, and you get to interview all the players. So you really connect and you create a rapport with the team in a totally different way than you do in European soccer, football. And when David Beckham came out here, and for the first time when I was in the dressing room, and I'm like, there is no way someone like me would get as close to someone like David Beckham if I was in England, right? And then people like him, though, gravitated towards the British press that were in there. It made him feel comfortable and safe. Same thing with Steven Gerrard when he came out here and played for LA Galaxy. We're talking about Sunday roast dinners in the LA Galaxy changing room. And I think, that was a real game changer for me when David Beckham came over and I started covering him for TalkSport. That really shifted the needle, and to be able to be in a room with someone like him who's so iconic, not only for us as Brits, but also on a global level, that was a really, really cool kind of special moment, and it's just kind of gone on from there. So yeah, I love it. I feel like I get the best of both worlds, but I don't get what you guys get every Saturday or well, dare I say Sunday this season. Crikey. Let me be the first to say Sunday.
It's going to be so depressing. You don't even just looking at the fixture list, because I was once the fixture list come out, I always go through and put it all in my diary,
which is what I've done as well. Yeah, because
I work weekends. I work weekends. I do weekends, and I have crazy shifts, and just because most of the midweek things go, this game will be moved because we'll be playing on Thursday. And it's like half the season. It's going to be huge. It is going to be absolutely huge. And it's because we're so used to playing Wednesday, Saturday or Tuesday, Saturday.
Yeah.
I don't think people realise just what a massive difference Thursday, Sunday is going to be.
It really is.
It affects so much of our schedule. And I know this is going to sound bad, and everybody's like, "Oh no, you should always want to win the trophy." But if I'm honest, I won't be too gutted if we went out after the first group stage, and that sounds bad.
But that's interesting, actually, because I'm quite excited about it. Look, I'm not exactly enamoured by the Sunday afternoons, and Thursday night is my date night. It's the only night I get off. So when my son is starts, because I normally date all that night. So we dating 60,000 people at the Emirates. But I think we've got a chance of winning it, where I don't think we've got a cat's hell chance of winning the Champions League. So I'm actually a little bit excited. But let's move on to something, actually, because as you all know, I tweeted out for questions today, and we don't normally get this many. So I think instead of us just chatting about Arsenal and stuff, a lot of the questions are going to be relevant to what we're talking about. So let's start with this one, okay? As Arsenal fans, I know we should be used to this, but how do you stay positive, if at all, during the transfer window? And that is from Ian DR67 on Twitter. Sima, what's it like in Dubai via transfer window? Is football big out there?
Oh, yeah, it's huge over here. It's very, very huge in the region in general. But personally, after years of experience in the summer transfer window, I stay clear of the transfer window, and that's how I stay positive. Honestly, like, everything changes, and at the end of the day, I mean, I have quite a few friends that play for Chelsea, West Brom, and one in Arsenal as well. And the way that they look at it has changed my perspective of it completely as well. Because I used to always feel like, okay, loyalty, and why is this guy leaving, and how could we sign this player, and how can we do that? But it's completely different on the other side. And that just made me realize that I don't even want to know till we know who we sign, and whoever leaves, okay, good riddance, honestly, even if it is Alexis Sanchez. And I know that's something that everyone will completely disagree with me on, but I feel like it's just the easiest way to handle emotionally the transfer window.
That's interesting, Sima. So you obviously know some players, and I know you know the one I know that you know. How do they look at it then? Are they looking at it as no loyalty, just worrying about contracts and money, or do they worry about where they're playing and if their family would settle? Say Sanchez, that there are rumours, and obviously we are recording this just as the window starts. We don't know where Sanchez is going, if he's staying or not. So we're going to talk as if we don't know. If Sanchez, say for instance, he's got to move his family from London to Manchester. It's a bit of a move. I know it's not abroad, obviously, but it is a different lifestyle. I'm in Manchester quite a bit. It is very different to down in London. How do they see it then?
I mean, for someone like Sanchez, I wouldn't really know 100%. He would, but I know that a lot of the players do like being in London. That's one. A lot of the players do like playing under specific managers, and that's why Arsene Wenger is. I mean, we all know that's why Ozil came. That's why I think Alexis Sanchez came as well. So managers play a big role, but also the weather. So that's why sometimes a lot of people, a lot of the players say that they don't want to be playing in London or in England anymore at all, because they feel like it's actually been such a downer on their motivation, on their performances and everything as well. So there's so many things that actually affect it. But of course, the family men don't want to move their children from the schools, so there's a lot of different factors that can play into it. I mean, for Alexis Sanchez, I think it's more that he actually loves playing football and he loves winning. So for him, it will definitely be where he sees he can win. And I think we see that also on the pitch whenever we're playing shit.
Okay, so fire. Sanchez, it is a contentious subject at the moment. I would be personally devastated if he went. I've resigned myself to the fact that a few weeks ago someone told me that he was probably going, and this person is normally right. There are rumours that are quite strong that he is, but you know what? Things can change sometimes, and this person could be wrong. How would you feel? First of all, if he goes, in my eyes, he's got to go abroad. If we start selling our players to rival teams again, I'm going to lose my shit over this. But Sanchez for you.
Right. Well, I would be gutted if he went, but I've also resigned myself to the fact that he's going. I don't think he's staying. I don't think we have a choice as to where we're selling him either. I think he is going to go to Manchester City. I mean, history shows that we do sell to rivals. You know,
but we were told, Fire. We were told that was going to stop, and we didn't need to do that anymore.
Amanda, when have they ever? We told that there was going to be a catalyst for change. Arsene's just got a new 2-year contract and could be longer. I mean, that we have been lied to so many times in the last 5-10 years. What makes you think that you can believe anything they tell us now?
Well,
I think we're going to lose him. I think we're going to lose the Ox. I know a lot of people aren't that gutted about that, but I am. I watch Ox week in, week out. I don't think he's been given a fair crack at the whip. And I do think if he was given a proper run in the team, he would be as good. Liverpool. Why would Liverpool be breaking our arms off to get him? And he knows it. He absolutely knows it. I think we've handled him badly. I think we've handled the whole transfer situation badly. The amount of players we've got going into the last year of their contracts is abysmal. It shouldn't have come to this.
Why do you think they keep doing this year after year after year? Our club who is run with a supposedly decent CEO, with a board that we've got, yet we are continually running down contracts to a year before on big time players. And just going back to the Ox, my personal opinion is I'd be very upset if the Ox goes. Very upset. I think he was coming into his own in the last few months, and I think he would do a great job for us. My problem is I don't think he particularly respects Wenger that much. But
not anymore.
No,
I think he did at the start, but like a lot of the fans, we loved Arsene at the start, but as the years have gone on, we're seeing more and more of the negative side to his personality, the negative side to how he runs the club, because he runs the club. Let's not beat around the bush about this.
From top to bottom. He runs the club, and he is partly to blame as to why
these contracts are running down because he doesn't want to relinquish his power to anyone. So they always have to wait for him to come in and make the decisions. And we are in this position. I love Arsene, but he shouldn't have got a new contract. I know this is old hat now. Shouldn't have got a new contract. We should have gone a different direction. We should have had a director of operation. The club should have changed. We should have changed. We're not changing. And all these people that are thinking, it's going to be amazing next season. Arsene's willing to make a difference, etc., etc. I'm actually dreading next season.
I love you. You are so like me on a podcast. I ask you a question, you divert to everything else. That is exactly what I do every podcast. It's brilliant. I don't even know the original question that I asked. I'm seeing it because I'm agreeing with everything you're saying. I can't disagree with anything. But going back to the transfer, that's the question. How do you deal with it? I mean, I don't even discuss it. When anyone asks me about transfers, my dad hasn't stopped. I always say the same thing. Dad, when you ring me and tell me someone signed, or Sky Sports put a yellow banner up saying this one has signed, is when I take any notice. I have been asked about Lacazette about 20 times in the last 2 days. Okay. I'll talk to you about him if and when he signs. That's how I deal with it.
Well, I always say when I see them holding up the shirt with the name on and the number, whatever number, that's when on the website, not even on Twitter, on Arsenal.com, that's when I'll believe it. I won't believe it any other. I don't even look for the Sky News yellow banner. I don't like everybody's talking transfers, whatever. Like if somebody asks me, I'll say, well, blah, 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 blah. I wanted Mbappe, but it looks like we're going to get Lacazette. Whatever, but until I actually see, I'm not getting into an argument conversation about it until I see where we are beginning of the season and who we've got.
Okay, so you're similar to me and Sima's the same. We stay away from it a little bit. Sophie, with your job, are you able to stay away from it or do you have to discuss it?
I have to discuss it. And it's really painful. And last season was exceptionally painful. I've never really wanted a football season to end ever. And last season, it was, it started with the West Brom. The West Brom game came before the Palace game, right, girls? Where that was, that period was probably one of the most darkest moments as an Arsenal fan. It was, really, what I found was that we lacked coaching in those weeks. And I think that's when I decided that I was a Wenger out person. I thought to myself, there are moments where great coaches, and especially someone like Wenger, he's a great coach. He has delivered so much success and so much amazing experiences for Arsenal fans that we're never, ever going to forget in our lifetime. And we're going to tell our kids about it, our younger cousins about it. And I think in those weeks, I lost a touch respect for him because every great coach has a plan B and we never had a plan B. And a great coach also galvanizes players to stick together. So we had kind of a lackluster team, an apathetic team that really weren't putting in the performances. And something in those 5 weeks completely broke and changed. And that's when I felt like, as a great a team as Arsenal is, and here in the United States, it's Arsenal, it's Man United, it's Chelsea. Those are the 3 biggest English teams in the US. And I thought, and I was really, really disappointed with how we handled those few weeks. I was really disappointed with the fact that we didn't have any answers, that the players didn't fight, and that the coaching team, Wenger, Bold, everybody had nothing. And so for me, I thought, okay, going into the summer, maybe this really is the summer of change. Maybe this season horribilis, as I like to call it, will be over and we'll be done with it.
Okay, but Soph, and I agree with you, I couldn't wait for the season to end. But it ended with us beating Chelsea in the cup final, where I have to tell you, and I don't care what anyone else said, I did not expect that performance. I did sit down at Wembley and I said to the guy next to me, we should go hell for leather. It is the last game. I couldn't care less who gets injured. We've got no World Cup. I don't care. They need to go for this. I didn't expect that. No one did. I'm sorry, not one Arsenal fan. I'm not saying no one thought we could beat them, but I don't think anyone really dreamt that we would perform like that. And Mertesacker as well. And everything that went on in that game just showed me the passion that they had. They wanted to either do it for
tackling.
Oh, you shush about my Ozil. You shush.
No, but
it's true. It's
yes,
true.
But he does tackle. I know what you mean. They all were. Okay. They were on their game. So what my point is this, okay? Were they playing for the fans? Were they playing for Wenger, the club, themselves? What? Because how can you put a performance out like that? And when I was in New York with my New York Gooners watching Arsenal at Crystal Palace, lucky I was with Gooners. I was embarrassed. I was distraught. I was disgusted. They didn't even look like they wanted to be there. So the change, okay, he changed formation, which for me should have done months before. He said he even practiced it in November and brings it in, April? Whatever. But you're right, there were dark moments. And it was an awful season. But if you talk to anyone outside of Arsenal, they call us ungrateful. They call us spoiled. A bad season that we've won the FA Cup and we're in a Europa League.
Are Man United fans ungrateful? Are Man United fans like? Why is it? There's this thing as well though that we're a dartboard, and I hate that we've become a dartboard for fans and the media. Agreed. Okay, so Man United are the most winningest team in the history of the Premier League. When the shit hit the fan for them, were their fans moany and bitchy? Were they ungrateful? No, it was the great Manchester United, and how you can understand how fans would feel this way. We were the Invincibles. We're a double-winning team. We had legends like Adams and Vieira, and we changed English football when Wenger came to Arsenal. He is a pioneer, a trailblazer. And people want to point the finger at us just because we want better. It's the same thing with Lacazette versus Mbappe. Mbappe going to Real Madrid is a great deal. What a great player, Liga. But Lacazette coming to Arsenal is like, is he really worth it playing in Liga? I mean, what is that about, girls?
Yes. Yeah. So let's move on to that slightly, because we've got a lot of questions from people wanting to talk to us about how we would feel if Sanchez goes, Lacazette comes in, possibly Mahrez, possibly Lamar, and, obviously Mbappe. Now, my view on this, Sima, what do you think? Do you honestly think that Arsenal would spend 125 million quid on a 19-year-old that's had a very, very, very good, exciting season, okay, that people are lauding up? Everybody wants him, apparently. All the big clubs want him around the world. 125 million quid on a 19-year-old that isn't proven.
No way.
Can you see? Would you like him, or do you think Arsenal wouldn't go there?
I mean, I'd like him, not for 120 million. No way. I'm completely against these ridiculous numbers in general. But sorry, I need to go back to the point that we're talking about before, because that kind of ties into what we're talking about now in terms of new signings. One of the things is the reason why the fans are also highlighted so much, the Arsenal fans, is because we have fans that are so vocal on two sides, and we are the reason why we are in the media all the time, and we are the reason why people keep looking at us and pointing fingers at us, because we don't have a fan base that is united at all. We have a fan base that is, sorry to bring this up, and I don't like to bring up any other podcast because it's not, for me, I don't want to be bad-mouthing anyone, but if you look at Arsenal Fan TV, the whole point of it is to actually talk about two different sets of fans who are fighting all the time, and that's what's going viral, and that's why people see us and point fingers at us, because that's what people see most of the time. So that's one thing. And then in terms of Alexis Sanchez and who's leaving and who's coming, one thing about the FA Cup final is that we played amazing because every single player put in the effort and every single player had the performance of the season. So for me, if Alexis Sanchez leaves, one of the reasons why I'm a bit like, okay, he leaves, fine, because I don't want one player to be doing that the whole season and the rest of the team not doing that. I'd rather have every single player. My bigger concern would be, are we going to be able to perform day in, day out as a team and not as an individual? Because we've had that with with Van Persie, we've had that with Alexis Sanchez, we've had that with different key players at certain points. And I feel like that has always been the player that we are waiting for and looking for. And that is what the rest of the players are also kind of waiting for. So I feel like for me, losing Alexis Sanchez and getting a few others that might be, okay, not to the same level of Alexis Sanchez, but will play the same way that Mertesacker played in the FA Cup final, or the way that Ramsey plays, or the way that Giroud fights every single game. I'd rather have those players, because those players are going to be putting the effort in, day out, without whining, without having attitude. And I feel like this is one of our biggest problems, is that we always want big players, but we always have one big player that becomes kind of a one-man team kind of thing. And I feel like I'm so bored of that. And that's why our season became so dull at the end. And I don't know. I know I kind of went back to the old questions, but I felt like I just wanted to get that out.
Sima, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Sima, don't you think, though, we became a one-man team because he was the only one that was trying? That everybody else, like the manager, kind of gave up? Because that's what it looked like to me.
Yeah, definitely. But when that happens, that player becomes the player that every single person is kind of waiting for, even the other players. And that's why I feel like I don't want that. Because then one player can be slacking off a little bit, but they'll think, okay, whatever, Alexis Sanchez will get this. And it became kind of the trend. And it was the same with Van Persie. And I feel like I'm just bored of these players. I don't want to have that anymore. And maybe it is me being a little naive, but I do feel when we do have one star, it kind of plays on the, not the emotions, but it just kind of plays on the confidence of the other players, because they feel like they are not the Alexis Sanchez and they are not the Ozils of the team.
Okay, so while we're on the subject of Ozil and Sanchez, everyone knows who listens to me that I rave about Ozil constantly, and Sanchez, to be honest. And when Sanchez had his strops, I had no problem with it, to be honest. I know you're saying it can affect the other team, but we need leaders, we need fighters, and I would be devastated if he went. I really would. Sophie, with regards to Alexis, what's your view on him?
I think Alexis is our Messi and our Ronaldo. And
Exactly.
Barcelona and Real Madrid would never, ever, ever sell those two players. Doesn't matter what Ronaldo said this summer. He's not leaving Real Madrid. He's not going anywhere. He is our jewel in the crown. And you know what?
Yep.
Every team has a little bit of a diva. Chelsea have Hazard. You know, Liverpool have Coutinho, as nice as he comes across. Every team has a player like that. Bayern Munich have Lewandowski. He's been firing off and bitching about his teammates this summer, talking about how they should have given him a pass so he could have won the Golden Boot over Aubameyang, etc., etc. Man United would never sell Sanchez. Man United would never sell him to any British club. If we sell Sanchez to City, it will be worse than when we sold RVP to Manchester United. I think that, in the past we've seen Cantona. Man United allowed Cantona to be their diva. Manchester United allowed Cantona to be their superstar. And, Manchester City early on allowed Aguero to be the man. And I think that sometimes we're so caught. It's a team sport, yes. But every team, even here, I love the NBA. Steph Curry is the golden boy of the Warriors. Kevin Durant is the new guy. Ozil and Sanchez are our Durant and Curry. We should never sell them. We should keep them. We should revere them. We should love them. We should embrace them. And we should build a team
around them. I knew you were going to say that's exactly what I've been saying. And I also feel that, and I agree with all your points, and I think we all feel like this. But as Fire said at the beginning, we may not have a choice of where he goes. Now,
I don't think we do.
Okay, so
I think we do. We've got to, right, mate? I mean, we've got to. We've got to have a choice.
Girls, in the week, I was at the question and answer session, the end of season supporters event at the Emirates, and Gazidis was chatting to us. We weren't allowed to ask about transfers, which is fine. Of course, he's not going to tell us anything. But I was pretty annoyed at one point when he was talking about Harry started it off. He knows that fans aren't happy. He knows that they're not happy. The fact that we didn't challenge for the league, he came in. He's probably, I don't know how many people there, 200, don't know. But no one was generally that happy. But he said to us, we're not going to buy squad players anymore. We weren't we've got a good squad. We weren't first teamers and stuff like that. Halfway through the thing, I got so angry. There was a very, very, very passionate question at the beginning from a guy whose dad used to play for Arsenal in the 50s, I think. And he said he's never felt such toxicity with the fans, and the fact that club has stagnated. Stagnate seems to be the word at the moment. But I shouted out, I said, have you tied up Sanchez yet? Is the deal tied? I got told off for not having a mic, for heckling. Both him and Ganella looked over and said, well, if you could be quiet, we could answer questions and whatever. But it's all spin and lip service. I knew what it was like. I've been a couple of times before. But one of the things that I found amongst the people that I was sitting with, and obviously a few I knew, but the people behind me and the people around me, no one seems happy. And what you were saying, Fire, at the beginning about, Sima mentioned Arsenal Fan TV. Now, I have a different view on it. I feel that some of them get misrepresented because of the way they speak on there. Okay, they're passionate. They're going hell for leather. And it is straight after the game. Okay. If you spoke to them a couple of hours later, it would be calmer. I do agree with what most is said, actually. Funny enough, I don't actually watch the interviews, but I hear about it. And I just feel that the one thing that Gazidis kept going on about was the media were to blame for this. The media were to blame for the toxic, I can't even say the word, the toxic atmosphere in the stadium. Okay. I'm sorry, for me, that's bollocks. Okay. I don't read papers or anything like that. For me, on that side of the media, I don't listen to TalkSport anymore because of Durham and everything. But I can't listen to it because I get too angry. The only media I listen to or look at is Twitter, really, I suppose, or Sky News or whatever. So for me, if I'm watching Arsenal play on the pitch, nothing to do with the media telling me their shit. I can see it myself. I can see what's going on. He was very upset, Gazidis. He wants the fans to be united. Well, for the fans to be united, you need to be in contact with us fans. You need to be, the bridge is too far gapped now between them and us. Go back to Highbury. Never felt like this, ever. The catalyst to change, this famous saying of his, he's given Wenger a 2-year extension. Whether you three agree with me or not, I didn't want that. That's not what I wanted. I wanted change. We're at the very beginning of the transfer market. We don't know what's going on. Okay. I get messages all day long that this one's coming, that one's coming. As I said, as we all say, we don't. But as all of you feel, we don't actually know what's going on. The club was so distant from us now that when I sat there, he gave us 25 minutes of his time that he doesn't have to do. I don't know any other clubs that a CEO comes down. I do feel one of the people was planted, because he was very, very pro-Wenger and Arsenal, and he didn't even ask a question. He just launched into a whole verse and chapter about how wonderful he is. And at the end of the day, oh, he did, yeah. And at the end of the day, we just want our club to be successful. That's all we want. Okay, but go for it. No, only one club can win the league. Only one club can win the Champions League and so forth. But at the end of the day, we need to be challenging. And those dark moments that Sophie were talking about, West Brom, Watford, Spurs away, Crystal Palace, were diabolical. And then we come to Chelsea, as I've reiterated before, and we pull a performance out against the champions. After 10 minutes, I looked at her hands, I went, oh my God, where's this come from? That is what Arsenal used to be about. You mentioned Vieira. You mentioned Adams. Adams and Parler and Wrighty and Bold and Smith, and they're my lot from the 80s. You know, that's my era. Those are the people I watch. If Tony Adams played in this team now, he'd be having them all for breakfast. It'd go ballistic at them. In just like in a summary, Sima, Fire, Sophie, do you think it's Wenger? Do you think it's Kroenke? Do you think the team are to blame? Sima?
I think it's all of it. I mean, it's a mix of everything. I do love Wenger, but I mean, I want to change this year as well because I again, as I think it was Sophie that was saying, I felt like this was the worst season I've ever watched Arsenal in, and I just wanted the season to end. So I actually did want to change as well, but I do believe it is everything. It's the whole club has become one big cloud of, I don't know, it's just toxic. From the fans to the management to Kroenke to everything. So that's why I'm just a bit, I don't know what needs to change. I mean, if it is the manager alone, no, but it's just everything that needs to change. And it's so confusing to watch and actually acknowledge that we have become one of those clubs that we made fun of for such a long time. Like we think it's one thing. Like if we think that it's just Wenger the solution, it's not just the only solution, but it is one of the solutions.
But it does start at the top, doesn't it? It starts at the top. When you're in your job.
Let me just tell you what Gazidis said, because there's no point discussing this. Kroenke's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. Wenger's signed a 2-year. He's not going anywhere. So all the conversations we've had for months about we want a new manager, we want this, there's no point discussing anymore.
No, that's
I'm telling you. But what he said about Kroenke, nowhere, not going anywhere. Apparently loves the club. We can discuss that on another podcast. So he's not going anywhere. So there's no point discussing Kroenke and Wenger. We now come to the team and the fans. I go to away games up north and I go to the ones in London as well. It is different gravy, okay? It's a different atmosphere. When I was at Liverpool, it was actually more toxic than ever I've known. I was at Chelsea away. That was beyond toxic. We were diabolical in all the games that I've seen. Actually, City away, I was in like a club level. It was ridiculous what happened second half. And I've seen this, okay? What gives them the right to say that the fans are causing this when you have to give us something back? They gave us something back at the cup final. They gave us something back against City in the semi-final. So from that perspective, okay, Sophie, so you're in America, okay? Yes. You're watching our games on Fox or wherever you watch it on.
Mm-hmm. NBC.
NBC. So in your opinion, okay, what can we change now?
Okay,
because those two are not going to change, okay?
They're not. They're not going anywhere and it's not going to change. But here's where it started really going pear-shaped. This is when the wheels totally fell off the wagon. When Arsene Wenger benched Alexis in that Liverpool game, go look at the timing and go look at the games that came after that. Everything broke after that. Alexis was gutted. Granted, I know something happened in training. I know that he wasn't happy with the tackle. I don't know the ins and outs of that. There's two sides to every story, and then there's the truth, always. But the benching of Alexis was such poor management, like the way Conte handled Diego Costa and the whole China thing. That's how Wenger should have handled Alexis. He should never have come to that game. He should never have been on the bench. He should have just left him at home. And then when we were playing really crap, who did he ask to come on and save the day? Alexis. That was such poor management. And you know what? We've all been there in a corporate environment too with our jobs, where you want your manager to make certain decisions because you know it's going to benefit the department or the company. And sometimes they just don't. And sometimes they make really poor decisions. And sometimes they reward people that shouldn't be rewarded. And they berate people that actually work really hard. And no matter what happened in that training, and I don't want Alexis to get preferential treatment over every other player because that's not right. But that was the beginning of the end. Now, I also think that, you know, in terms of changing, you talk about, you know, what happens next, how do we come together? I really do believe that after last season, and now we know Wenger's going to be in charge for 2 years, we've got to band together. We can't have these planes flying over stadiums.
Yeah.
That, you asked me about that. Arsenal were ridiculed in the States on US networks for all that nonsense. And it was nonsense, and it made us look Bush League. It made us look amateur. It made us look like we were the second-tier team in North London. And we all know that we're not. Just because Spurs have had 2 shining seasons does not make for 20 years of excellence, okay? This is what's happening now. Because we've completely fallen apart as a unit and as a fan base, we are now allowing the darts to be thrown harder and more accurate than they ever have been. So I would love to see us all come together and say, okay, this is our manager. This is what we've got for the next 2 years. We have to get behind the team. Now it's down to the board. It's down to Gazidis and Wenger to give us the ammunition to support them in this transfer window. If they fail in this transfer window, guys, it won't be great, and we'll start off exactly the same way. If we lose our first or second game, it's gonna kick off. So we have to band together, but the team and the club have to show the fans faith and really make this summer transfer window count. If they don't do that, we're in big trouble. Big trouble.
I'm just going to pick up on a point, and I'll bring Fire in a second. Interesting you were talking about the Liverpool. I was in Liverpool for that game. I was in a pub with all my Scouse mates. I didn't go with the Gooners. I went with the Scousers before, because a lot of them are my mates. And the team came out, and I just looked at the team. I glanced at it. And my mate went, Sanchez ain't playing. I went, oh, shut up. He went, Sanchez isn't playing. I quickly got my phone out, looked, and I actually lost my shit. They all looked at me, right, and I went, I'm not going to the game. I'm going to stay in the pub. There's just no point me going. He has benched the best player. I don't give a flying toss what he's done in training. Okay, he's what you're telling me, you're cutting your nose to spite your face. You do that.
Yeah.
Keep him, you know what? Keep him at home. Don't put him on the bench then. Okay, so this is my whole argument. If you are going to discipline a player that has caused God knows what, keep him at home. You put him on the bench, and I'm telling you, that first half was diabolical. You bring him on and you rely on him, and he changes the game. And I honestly, Sophie, I can't actually believe that you've brought that one up, because that is my biggest bugbear. I went nuts about that. But I just wanted to bring that point in. But Fire, you and I are at the Emirates, okay? It's a joke how we're seen. There is no atmosphere. You sit in a slightly different part of the ground to me. Not much, but, you know, I'm upper tier in the East Stand. Are you lower in the North Bank or upper in the North Bank?
Yeah, I'm in the north. I'm to the left of the so-called singing section.
Yeah, so you're over there. I'm up here.
Oh, yeah.
It isn't Highbury. I don't, you know, someone on Twitter has asked me, how can we change this atmosphere? Well, it is going to be different, because they're not going to be screaming for Wenger out, because it's done. So there's no point. We've got to move on. We've got to accept it. It's like the similar thing with Brexit over here, isn't it? You have to accept it. I didn't want it, but there's nothing we can do. We have to, as Sophie said, we've got to come together. So in the Emirates, I find it dull. I find it lifeless. You know, we were having a conversation with some guys on Twitter today, weren't we, about the fact that stewards tell you to sit down, that you are tutted at if you get up and shout or sing. Listen, I sit upper tier. We don't get up, because otherwise people cannot see. But I know in the lower tier you're up a lot. So what do you think, Fire? What do you think we can do? I mean, not me and you, but the club could do to raise it. Sorry, just one thing, because I was thinking about Crystal Palace. Whenever I go to Palace away, it's rocking before they even come out on the pitch, because of their song. You know, the whole crowd is up for it. I love that atmosphere. That, for me, I don't want a disco music playing. I want a football song. I want something that is going to put fire in our bellies, so when the players come out, we're buzzing. But we're not. What do you think, Fire?
We don't have a song, which is part of the problem. I know Redaction tried to get people to suggest one, but nobody could agree on one. I think I think the problem with the atmosphere goes quite deep. I think the fact that, and I know you shouldn't just talk about the fact that it costs so much money to go there, but I do think the fact that we pay the highest prices in Europe and they don't spend it, or it appears like we don't spend it, the fact that we squabble over 1 million, 2 million is embarrassing. I think that a lot of the people who are there are like, I'm paying all this money and you're just not giving, not just the players, but the club aren't giving us anything back. It was like, thank you. It's like when he said, thank you for your interest in our club. And he was like, wait, hang on a minute. We've been around a lot longer than you have. You're getting paid shitloads and you're not doing anything for us. And I know I do, and I shouldn't go in there with that attitude, but I do. I go in there, I shell out over $1,000 a season. I go in there, I sit there, and it's kind of like, well, you should be happy that, we've got this massive stadium and that we're doing this for you. And you just imagine what it could be like if you're not like you said, you're not like Palace, but Palace get less, their fans don't pay what we pay. They're more united, and yet they're like towards the bottom end of the table. We are, and people say, oh, Arsenal fans are spoiled and whatever. You're spoiled if we used to win things on when we were at Highbury, paying less money in a better stadium. The atmosphere was better. So, it's kind of like, I think the negativity is so ingrained. I don't know short of winning the Champions League or the Premier League, I don't know what can turn it around. There's so many unhappy people in that stadium. I went to, oh God, was it the Sunderland game when there was loads of empty seats?
Yeah.
Was it Sunderland? And in my row, I took a picture, and it wasn't at the start of the game. It was like 20 minutes into the game. And I took pictures of the seats alongside me, and nearly the whole row was empty. Now, I know the fixture had been
I've had that. We could have had a sleep, couldn't we? We could have laid down and had a sleep.
Oh, my God, I could have. I totally could have.
Absolutely, I said that.
People were moving down from the back because they could see all the empty seats. So they were moving. And they were like, oh, it's because it was rescheduled because, we had all the other people had games or whatever. And it wasn't just that. People had made conscious decisions to say, I am not going. I am not going. It's like, because I did. There were a few games I didn't go to. I thought, you know what? I'm not going. I'm not going. And they were going, oh, but, you need to support the team. I said, yeah, but I want people to see that I'm not happy. Because I'm not happy. I love Arsenal, but I am not happy.
Okay, so
let me ask you guys a really quick question, because I don't go to every home game now. Obviously, I live in LA. I travel home and I go to as many games as I can. But let's talk about the stadium and rocking, right? Let me ask you girls, were you at the Chelsea game in September where we thrashed them through? Okay.
Yes.
How rocking was the stadium that day?
It was, actually.
Right.
It was.
So performance, effort, winning, a cultural and continual feel of the team going out there and giving their all week in, week out. The fans feed off that. They love that. Yeah. The biggest heartbreak for me last season is this Arsenal team that we're talking about right now beat the champions of England 3-0. Not only did we beat them 3-0 in September, we beat them convincingly to the point where the media and everyone else was saying, wow, this could be the year Arsenal actually do win the league. We made them look average. Alexis Sanchez was the nucleus in that game, as was Mesut Ozil. How beautiful. It was like a symphony seeing those two play together on that day. And the fans ate it up and they loved it. So let me ask you this. Is part of it team performance versus the fact we're in a bigger stadium, we're not in Highbury? Because games like that make me miss going to games every single Saturday.
Let me answer that. Yes, it does. but it also, it's like a chicken and egg situation, isn't it? If we walk in and we're already miserable and moany and toxic, it doesn't help. I've never, ever, ever booed the team off, and I have a go at anyone that does. That does not help the team. But the team have to give us something, Sophie. You're right. It has to come from them. It's like a family. You know, we're all a family. We all want the same thing. There isn't one Arsenal fan in that stadium that wants to lose. We want to win everything. No. We love our club. Whether you've supported them for 2 years or 100 years, you want to win and you want to have that passion. We've not seen it. You're talking Chelsea. I don't remember the next game after Chelsea when we saw any passion. Months and months. So something was desperately wrong that our manager didn't look at. And that's my issue with him. When he says to us a few months ago, I changed the formation in November and we started it. How long does it take to bring it in? I'm serious. 6 weeks? Not 5 months. So, yeah, you know, and it is interesting that, you know, Fire and I go every home game, or, you know, we've got season tickets, and yes, I pay a lot of money like everybody does. I just feel that this season has to be different. We have to go non-toxic. We have to. It's done. He's there. Nothing's going to change. They love Arsene Wenger. The board love everybody. If you'd have heard the Q&A last week of the board members and the decision, you know, someone said, why wasn't this decision made months ago? Why has it all been about this? You know, that could have affected it. You know, we don't know. But, you know, I just think that you're asking us what could be different. It depends who comes in. If Sanchez goes to City, but we sign Mbappe and Lacazette, it's going to balance it, isn't it? It's going to be, yeah. But, you know, we've had a few questions asking us. Actually, Lee asked us. Lee's from the Same Old Arsenal pod, and he does do Arsenal Fan TV. He said, you know, if Lacazette comes in and Sanchez goes out, how would you see that? You know, how would that be enough for you? And look, I know I've spoken quite a bit tonight, but I'm quite passionate about this. I can't talk about a player that's never kicked a ball for Arsenal. I don't care what he's done in the French league. I don't care if he's got 100 goals or one. Until he starts playing for us, we shouldn't judge him on anything. The boy needs to be welcomed in, okay? He doesn't need to be seen on social media, Instagram or wherever it all is. He's not good enough. I'm sorry, some players are sensitive and that wouldn't work. Some players will go, fuck you, I'm going to show you how good I can be. You know, I don't want Sanchez to go anywhere, but we are resigned to this. If he goes to City and we get Lacazette and Lamar, say for instance, all of you, I'm going to ask Sima, Sophie, all of you, is it going to change your opinion? Are you going to feel... This is exciting now. Yeah, we've lost one of the most wonderful players who, honestly, when he walked off at Wembley, I said to everyone around me, that's the last time you're going to see him in an Arsenal shirt. And I had tears in my eyes. I don't want him to go. But Arsenal Football Club are bigger than any one player. We have to accept that football isn't how it was 20 odd years ago. So we bring in Lacazette, we bring in Lamar, we bring in Mbappe. I don't know. You know, none of us know. How would you all feel, Sima? Would your summer be happier? Would you feel you're looking forward to the first game of the season?
Okay, I did say that I wouldn't be bothered if Sanchez left. I would, obviously, but I was just kind of talking in general that my biggest concern is how we would react after that. And obviously, if he stayed and all of those players came in, I would be the happiest girl before the season starts. But if he goes and we bring in all the players that we need, I will only be happy once I see them play their first and second game, because that will determine everything. We've noticed we've had our first, I think for the last, I don't know, 6 years, every single first game we've lost. Maybe, I can't remember if we lost this year, but yeah, so that has...
Liverpool. I was there, Liverpool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I would not be satisfied till I see the first 2 games, until I see how they play as a team, because we always come into the preseason games and we look at the team like, oh my God, they're playing amazing, and all these young players are playing, and we get excited, and then we start the season and it's a big flop the first game of the season. So right now, after many years of this, I don't know how to be happy from transfer windows and from who we sign, even if they are some of the best players in the world, because you really never know anymore.
No, it's true.
I think, I mean, for me, I think that the key is how beautiful would it be if we kept Sanchez and we signed Lacazette? Great teams that want to win things, teams that want to really progress. They don't sell Sanchez and sign Lacazette. They keep Sanchez and they sign Lacazette and they sign Lamar, right? And I know that's probably a stretch for Arsenal fans. They're probably listening to this right now thinking she's nuts. No, I'm not nuts. That's how it should work. That's what Chelsea do. That's what United do. And another thing, girls, Man United did not have Champions League football, and they signed Paul Pogba, and they signed Zlatan. Chelsea did not have Champions League football, and they kept Eden Hazard, and they kept Willian, and they kept Diego Costa. Why can't we do the same? It is a part of a coaching role. John Wooden, a UCLA basketball coach, one of my favorite coaches of all time, you know, the way he taught players about, you know, being part of a team, being part of something bigger than yourself. So what if we're not in the Champions League for one season after 20 seasons? Arsene Wenger's job at $8 gazillion a year, or however much he's earning, his job is to convince Ozil, Sanchez, Bellerin to stay and to say, for one season, boys, you're going to be playing on Thursday, but I'll guarantee you the following season we'll be back in the Champions League, and I'm going to buy this player, and this player to make sure that while Liverpool, City, Tottenham, and Man United are duking it out, and Chelsea in the Champions League, we're going to attack and we're going to take the Premier League next season. That is our job. And as manager, that is what he should be doing, and that's what he should be saying. And I would love it if we kept all of those players, and we kept Welbeck and Perez and Ramsey and Walcott on the Ox and Monreal. You know, my team looks like Mustafi, Koz, Holding, Bellerin, Xhaka, Kolasinac, Ozil, Lacazette, Sanchez. And I tell you who I'd love to partner Xhaka in that midfield is Fabregas. Let's bring him back. And if we can't bring Fabregas, let's go get Lamar, or let's go get James Rodriguez. Let's make some statements. I mean, it's really important. That's his job. This is why he's staying for another 2 years. Is he going to be worth the money? That's what he should be doing.
Yes, Sophie. The funny thing is, I can't disagree with.
Soapbox now.
I can't disagree with any of you tonight. I was hoping that we might have a little bit that we didn't disagree. Sorry, get my teeth back in. We felt passionate about one and the other one, disagreed. But I think we feel the same. I think we all know what we're talking about as well. We all feel how we feel for our own reasons. We've had, honestly, so many questions. I'm going to need to apologise and maybe do part 2 of this pod where we just ask questions, because I'm going to ask a couple of funny ones. All right. Now, this is my mate Lee. Lee is a red mank. Okay. He's at Lee_2805. He said, if you could buy one Man United player to improve your team, who would it be? Sima, just quickly.
One Man United player. Oh, God.
Is there anyone?
No. I actually can't think of a United player.
I thought of one, actually, but go and fire. Sophie, either of you?
De Gea. Yeah, I was going to say De Gea, yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly who I thought was. De Gea.
100%.
Yeah.
De Gea.
Yeah. And as he sent it to me, I laughed with him and I told him where to go. But I thought it was quite an interesting question, actually, because in that whole team, it would be De Gea for me. That would be an amazing one. Yeah. Okay, we've got a funny little question here from TC Canton 94. What would you think would go for more at an auction? Number 1, a lock of Bellerin's hair. Number 2, Alexis's dog's collar. Number 3, Chesney's cigarette box. and Tommy is part of the Gooner TV pod, who I've been on, and they're brilliant. So what do we think?
What was the Alexis one? What was it for Alexis?
The dog collars.
Oh, definitely that.
That's what I think.
The dog collars.
I miss Was. How much do you miss Was? Let's bring him back.
Oh,
Him and his cigarette butts.
Yeah. Okay, so Adam Petit.
Before you just
Go on, Danny.
can I just got to say this? I think it's such a shame that it looks like he's going to go to Juventus for 15 million, which is a travesty.
Who, darling? Who? Who are you talking about?
Chesney.
Oh, Chesney. I think he burnt his bridges. Such a shame. He's had a brilliant season, isn't he? You know, I'd bring him back.
Juventus are buying him for 15 million. Really? Anyway, sorry. Continue.
Yes, but again, it's transfer chat. We don't know yet. We just don't know. Okay, so another question I wanted to ask. This is interesting. Adam Gooner 72. My question to you lot is, if you could relive a certain time as an Arsenal fan, what would it be and why? Go on, Fire.
97, 98. 97, 98 was like my proper first full season going to Highbury. And
you want to relive it, yeah?
Oh, my God, the football that season was unreal. Dennis was at his peak. Wrighty won his first title. It was just amazing. It was Adams running through I was right in that North Bank when Bold chipped the ball over to Adams and Adams ran on and blasted it home.
Yeah.
When I was crying in the crowd, that season was amazing. I remember my friend turning to me saying, do not forget this feeling because it won't last forever. And he said that to me then.
Yeah.
And I look back at that now and think, God, so true.
And the commentary had something to do with that Adams goal too, didn't it? The would you believe it? Oh, man, my hairs just go up. Yeah, just thinking about it. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
Sophie, come on then, yours. What
anything to do with Dennis Bergkamp? The Leicester goal, the Newcastle goal. What a magician. I loved Thierry and I loved everything he did. I mean, the volley against Man United, special stuff. The Invincibles year, of course, was special, but Dennis Bergkamp was a gift to the Premier League, and he was wrapped up in a red bow beautifully for everybody to enjoy. What a stud. Amazing.
Love him. Absolutely love him.
Sima?
Love him.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I'm obsessed with Dennis Bergkamp, anything to do with Dennis Bergkamp. But I would also love to have actually lived Arsenal at the times that you guys were talking about, because I was not a fan back then. So that also would have been nice to be able to understand what you're talking about, what you're feeling as well.
See, now, girls.
You know what you're going for.
Yeah, I don't actually think I need to go into it, but if you do not want to live the night at Anfield in 1989, I know it's years and years and years ago, but it is history for us.
It was epic.
I don't even remember what I did 8-9 days ago. I remember the whole day and night and the weekend in Highbury. So for me, being 19, nearly 20, yeah, it was 89, wasn't it? Yeah, I was nearly 20. I can't express to you what it was like being behind the goal that night. I will never. It's magical. Okay, it was unbelievable. It was the most bizarre experience of my life. No one goes to Anfield and wins. No one. And I'd never been in my life, even up north, I don't think. So I don't think I have. Honestly, I've been abroad, but I'd never been up north. To be fair, they were very welcoming to us. I mean, we got interviewed on, well, it wasn't ITV then, London Weekend Television, whatever it was, because we were the only Gooners there. I mean, I did a whole blog on this. I've never written a blog in my life, but I did on this one. And when Thomas goes through and misses, right, we all look at each other and I'm like this, we might as well go home. I mean, I was a stroppy 19-year-old, tired. It was Friday night. We've got a 4-hour journey back. We're not going to win. And then he comes through, and you see, in my head, I'm behind the goal, but my dad says we were to the right of it, to the left of it. In my head, we're not. Okay. I swear to you, I don't remember the few seconds after. I was lifted up, I was kissed, I was hugged. I don't remember seeing my family for a few minutes because everyone was everywhere. So for anyone that wasn't there, you know, it is magical. That moment, and to win it in the last second. I still laugh now because my best mate is a Scouser, and he said to me, "You're going to mention 89 again?" Because I just
That's so funny. That's brilliant. Do you think that ending, Amanda, do you think that was better than I know it's not the modern era of the Premier League, but the City United ending was amazing a few seasons ago, the Aguero goal. But I think the Thomas goal, to have to go to Anfield, the legends of British football, and win by 2, I think that is undoubtedly the best ever finish to any title season, whether it's the old Division 1 or the Premier League ever.
Okay,
and don't forget, they were the best team in Europe, not even just Britain, England. They were the best team in Europe.
No one went there and won. But
nobody went there and won. Nobody did.
No one. It was a fortress. But
I remember all the papers. They wrote us off. The papers wrote us off. No
one expected us to win. Thousands of Arsenal fans were there that night. No one did. But I will say I am very close to a lot of City fans, very good friends. Now, we've had this conversation. From their point of view, okay, they took the title off United. There is that massive factor as well. It was the Premier League and it was on Sky. We weren't. It was Division 1 and we was on ITV or wherever it was. They were 2-0 down or whatever it was. I can't remember. I remember watching the game and I actually was so thrilled because I prefer City over United in those days and still do. And we argue about this. And I said to them, you have to put us into perspective. No one went to Anfield and won. It was a fortress. We not only had to win, we had to win by 2 clear goals. I said,
Man City were at home. Man
City were playing QPR. You cannot compare it. No, I know. I mean, I was trying not to be biased, and the fact that I was there, and I had people that were there at the City game. Okay, it's different. I think that we concluded I was right. But I am right. Boom, exactly. I let them think they're winning an argument, and then I just go, it's Liverpool away. We have to win by 2 clear goals. And as Fire said, they're the best team in Europe. So for me to relive what I lived, that's for me. I want to go back. I want to go back to that week because I didn't even have tickets to the week before. It was like gold dust. I nearly had to quit my job because he wasn't going to let me go up north. I was 19. I went, okay, I'll get another job. I was like, there's no way I'm missing this in a million years. But he was winding me up. He was a West Ham fan. He was a solicitor. I was a legal secretary at the time. He just went, no, I can't let you go. I honestly, I in my head, I'm tantruming. Ready? I'm tantruming. I'm like, what? What do you mean? Oh, well, I'm going. I was like, he was just winding me up. But, yeah. Now, girls, we have spoken for way over time. It has been amazing. I want to do this all again as well.
Yeah, we can do a part 2.
We just need to do this again with all of us. And, you know, at the end of it all, we are passionate Gooners. We don't have to call ourselves Gooner Girls. We're Gooners, okay? We know what we want for our club, and hopefully this season is going to be different. As Sophie said, no planes, no ridiculousness. I didn't want Wenger to extend. He did, so we have to move on. I want to thank you all. Sima, it's just been lovely talking to you again. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, always, darling. Fire, love you, darling.
Love you too. Thanks for having me. We have to do a proper chat again. Answer the question.
We do. We have so many questions, and I'm so apologetic, and I will apologise on Twitter. We did a couple out 20 or 30. And Sophie, it's been a pleasure, and you are now definitely one of my sisters from another mother.
I love
mine too.
I love it. I have 3 new crushes, and you girls are those. My new girl crushes. Love it.
And Sima, I'll talk to you separately, Sima, but that is quite relevant to what I said to you about that song yesterday.
I realize that.
You get it now, don't you?
I do.
Right. This has been amazing. I've loved it. I've loved talking to all of you, the passion in all of you, as is in me. we love our club. We just want the best for them. And hopefully this season, with maybe some new decent signings, we're going to get that. So I bid you good night and hope that you've all enjoyed listening to our special Gooner Girls Gooner Ramble pod. And remember, always Arsenal.
Football has its ups and downs. You can't win every match, but you can win every bet. Start your free trial and earn £30 risk-free today at oddswatchdog.co.uk.